Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. My guest today is Jagadish Bandhol, CEO and founder of MobileForce Software, which is now positioned in the market as MobileForce.ai. MobileForce provides an AI-enabled no-code CPQ platform designed to help companies configure, price, quote, approve, and manage complex sales process. The company also offers related capabilities around field service and connected revenue flows, but today's conversation will focus primarily on CPQ. What has changed at MobileForce, how the company thinks about AI and no-code CPQ, and what CPQ buyers and practitioners can learn from MobileForce's current direction. Jagadish joined the CPQ podcast before, and today we will focus on what has changed since then, including the move to the MobileForce AI positioning and the newest CPQ developments from the MobileForce team. Very excited to have him back. Welcome back to the CPQ podcast, Jagadish.
Great to be back here, Frank.
Great to have you back. For our listeners who may not know you yet, can you briefly reintroduce yourself and MobileForce to our listeners?
Yeah, Jagadish Bandhol, founder, CEO of MobileForce.ai, and my background is B2B software, infrastructure software, application software, and cloud. That's sort of generally my background, engineer turned entrepreneur.
Excellent. And I think the last time you were on the podcast was in 23, so it has been a while, right? Now, I'm not sure if you remember what was in 23, what exactly MobileForce do, but what are the biggest changes from your point of view when you look back now?
A few things. Certainly, the journey in CPQ, we've spent a lot of time with mid-market and we've gradually moved up-market. So, working with more complex environments, enterprise customers. So that's certainly been a big and exciting development for the company and for us. Second is spending a lot of time with AI, both but internal use, but also deploying AI capabilities for our practitioners, CPQ administrators. But the most exciting part is capabilities that we are rolling out for the reps themselves, the end users. So that's certainly been a big area. The third area is also we've branched out quite a bit beyond CPQ into adjacent areas as part of the broader sort of lead to quote to contract to service to cash, if you will, steps that that's sort of spans the sales to service workflows in enterprise customers. And so really understanding that entire workflow from a customer perspective and innovating new capabilities to meet those customer needs. So those are sort of three areas that has changed since the last time we spoke.
And one more question concerning the last time we spoke is, how have the people who purchased the CPQ solutions changed since the last time we talked? You talked to a lot of customers, and I just wonder what you noticed.
There is a broader one area in general, as we've as SaaS has matured, SaaS deployment has matured in enterprises. And of course, with the onset of AI, there's a lot of discussion about what do they want to buy, what can they build it themselves. So that conversation has come back up again. So what we have seen is from a SaaS perspective, one macro trend is buyers they are gravitating towards vendors who can do more than one thing. They don't want to have 50 point tools and have to integrate all of them, right? Just vendor consolidation is an area that has impacted all the vendors, but has also made a big impact from a cost and manageability perspective for the buyers. So that's sort of a macro trend, right? Then the second is, are there tools that that they should be building themselves with AI as opposed to buying it off the shelf, right? And so that has put a lot of pressure on SaaS vendors and AI vendors to justify their value and where they fit in that. So that's another area. I think the other thing that I've seen is also around this concept of no code, low code. And what I mean by that is really the luxury of those enterprise features may not, the realization that it doesn't have to come with the ticket price of an enterprise class solution, right? So can you kind of have best of both worlds? Can you still have a very robust enterprise grade capability, but with the simplicity and the cost effectiveness of a mid-market solution where you can manage things yourself and so on and so forth, right? Historically, that's not been the case. Most, enterprise CPQs involved a long implementation cycle, big ticket prices in terms of setup and integration and implementation and all of that. And so there were specific buckets in which these solutions were categorized and how the buyers also viewed and evaluated. And that has changed quite a bit as well. It's exciting, it's certainly exciting because I think it pushes vendors like us to always think about it, putting ourselves in customer shoes and see where can we simplify things, right? So both from an implementation perspective, but also in terms of end user perspective.
Got it. And one more personal question before we talk more about MobileForce is I would like to understand what has influenced you in the last 3 years the most, how you run MobileForce right now, aside from AI. I guess that was a big thing that has changed, but what else influences how you lead MobileForce AI at this time?
I think a lot of learning as we rolled out these solutions across industries. We have had the good fortune of being able to implement our solutions both globally as well as across different industries. So that gives you a lot of data points and learnings. And one of the key learnings is really kind of outcome focused customer conversations, right? Typically, as vendors, you start initially your journey with more feature focused, right? So you talk about your features, you certainly talk about those benefits, but you don't necessarily always have a handle on what does it do for the end customer in the customer's environment, in their situation. So that's kind of what I define as outcome focused. What is the outcome that they were expecting, and is there a way for you to measure it? And is there a way for you to learn from it? If we fell short, why did we fall short? Is it because of a product gap, or is it because of application of a feature to a need, or is it because how it was configured, right? It could be any of those, right? And learning that, doing sort of a postmortem analysis after customers go live and as they go through their journey, and that has really helped inform us significantly. It has informed us as much to significantly with both customer success and expansion. It has really helped us prioritize feature capabilities in our product roadmap and product management discussions internally a lot more so than what it has done in the past, where it was more feature or competition driven, where, competitively we got to do this, we got to do that. You kind of look at analyst reports and kind of where we stack up. Those are the things that drove initially. I think of late, a lot of it has been really outcome focused for our customers, right? Our target markets, how can we make sure that we can have them as customers for life? And how can we enable a faster go-to-market once we have perfected a particular motion with a particular group of customers? So this concept of defining a buyer group, if you will, where you sort of have self-referential customers, where if you've done it very well with a great outcome for one, you should be able to talk to any other customer in that same buyer group and be able to use the self-referential customer. And if it works for customer X, it will work for us. And that actually helps speed up the sales cycles as well as typically leads to better outcomes in terms of implementation. So I think that's primarily, I would say, has been the biggest learning in the last 3 years since we last talked.
Okay, excellent. So then let's talk a little bit about the move to MobileForce AI, right? So that's not just a name change. I guess there's much more behind that. Tell me a little bit more about that. What was driving that, and what does it mean for your customers now?
Yeah, so I think three things, right? Just like most other technology companies, we as a company we started before the whole AI revolution happened, and so I wouldn't call ourselves completely AI native from that perspective. I would probably, we started off being AI enabled and then became AI first, and we're kind of on our journey towards AI native, so to speak. But three things, right? One is around development, how much we embraced and started using AI internally. That certainly everybody did that. We do it. Practically, a majority of our code obviously is AI generated, AI written now, and that also meant a lot of changes in terms of the software development lifecycle and the types of engineers and what was expected of them and what they do. So there's a lot more cognitive load on engineers now, a lot more comprehension debt you accumulate as you generate more and more things with AI, and so that's kind of one area, right? So, and we have gone full tilt on that, right? The second is around implementation and customer success, right? We have not only used AI, but we have actually gone all in on generating the first set of AI agents that we built out as a product is something that our own people can use, right? It was focused on practitioners. It was AI RevOps for the RevOps. We will put the power in the hands of the practitioners. That's the way we kind of think about it. Even before we kind of rolled out AI features for our end users, we first thought about admins. Just because so much of CPQ implementations live and die by the ease of administration, right? As you very well know. And so making that administration and then implementation as simple as possible was always something that we prided ourselves on, even before AI, with a lot of no code, low code architecture. And that was a natural lead in to AI. So the first set of agents we built was around admin agents, where we could naturally transition towards enabling agents to be able to completely set up and administer CPQ instances. So that was the second aspect, right? Customer success and implementation ongoing. And the third is around product. How we've always prided ourselves on CRM agnostic and backend agnostic architecture that we've built. Even though we do work with certain CRMs more so than others as a channel partner and a go-to-market partner, but from a technology perspective, we've always been back office and CRM agnostic. That product architecture has enabled us to now graduate to a higher level to roll out more revenue operation agentic workflows that go beyond CPQ. So sales rep workflows, marketer workflows, sales admin workflows, sales manager workflows, finance, and service personnel, right? So to be able to cover workflows that sort of span that sales to service, whether we are the CPQ platform of choice or not, you could still buy and roll out our AI RevOps suite without even using us as a CPQ. You could have a competitor CPQ, you could have a legacy CPQ. You can still derive a lot of value from our agentic platform for revenue operations. And that was a key focus area for us. So going back to your question, internal use, customer success, and new product innovations. So those are things that we went all in on from an AI perspective. So it made sense to brand MobileForce.ai and move towards that because that was a natural transition for us.
Makes sense. Now let's take a look away from AI, right? So what other main requirements did your customers come back to you with over the last couple of years? What are the top one, two, three things that they ask you for that you improved in your solution?
So one area where we've innovated a lot based on customer feedback is around different routes to market. Historically, CPQ has been mostly internally driven, right? For salespeople, direct sales, field sales. Um, we we've now come across many customers who have different routes to market. They have direct, they have indirect, they have even have self-service, right? So they do not want to invest in three different CPQ engines to address those routes to market. They would rather just have one unified CPQ engine, which can help their partners or distributors or resellers do quotes as efficiently as their internal salespeople can do. And now recently, we've also seen a lot of requirements for self-service. There are segments of their product catalog that are probably high volume, low ticket price, and those are things where they may not want it to be sales led. They may want it to be more marketing led and more self-service. In those cases, the ability to integrate with a B2B e-commerce site like a Shopify, headless CPQ becomes important in those scenarios. So one CPQ platform that can give you both direct sales led, partner led, and headless becomes important. So that's one area.
If your company is evaluating CPQ and you're not sure which vendors are actually worth your time, try the free Novo CPQ Briefing Match app. You answer a few questions about your business and requirements, and it gives you a more focused starting shortlist of relevant CPQ solutions. It's meant to save time, reduce noise, and make early CPQ research a lot easier. Go to novocpq.com and click on the CPQ podcast page to find it.
The other area I've seen is more so on our side. We've always had a lot of focus on mobile. The word is in our name as well. When we talk about mobile, it's not really mobile device so much so. That's certainly part of it. We've always looked at mobile as mobility of the workforce. People don't always necessarily work in office. They are remote. They're on the road, and there is a great amount of desire to be able to transact anywhere they are, anywhere, anytime, any device, right? And so the mobile in the MobileForce really alludes to that, the agility of that, right? And that's what we want to enable. But a big part of that is also mobile device, right? And so ability to enable that CPQ experience to be equally effective and easy to use, both on the mobile and on the desktop, as well as online and offline. And that's a big lift. As you know, offline is not that easy to achieve, especially when you have complex product catalogs and rules and other things. But I'm very proud to say that we have really broken some barriers there and made some pretty big technical strides to have fairly complex product catalogs and rules being evaluated at the edge, offline, completely offline, to enable those kind of scenarios. That has really delighted some of our customers. So that is certainly an area that we've gone beyond. And last but not the least, I would say stretching beyond the traditional sort of categorization of CPQ, right? It's not just about a deal to a quote. People, especially in service-oriented industries, people think about post-sale. How quickly you can go from a quote to a contract to a delivery. Because at the end of the day, when you say quote to cash, they can't really collect the cash until they deliver the service. It could be equipment that they have to go and install. It could be some other service that they have to deliver along with that, right? And so for them, the process doesn't necessarily complete until they complete the rest of the process. And so if the CPQ just stops at the quote and now they have to go invest in some other system and now they have to get them integrated, it's additional cost, additional complexity. So we've actually innovated and implemented features that go beyond that. And that's where some of our field service and project management capabilities that you see on our website It's an add-on module. It doesn't make sense in all industries, but it makes sense in service-oriented industries. And those customers have really chosen us primarily because we were the only vendor in their evaluation checklist that could cover that gamut. When they came into evaluation, they had a short list of CPQ vendors, and we rose to the top primarily because of that breadth of capabilities we provided, and they really liked it and they needed it. And so that's something that we are seeing, sort of quote to cash to service, if you will, right? And that's an area where we feel we have a very differentiated offering in the market, and we like to work with those industries a lot more than others.
Got it. Now, CPQ projects are still complex, right? And some are failing, or if they're not failing, then they're getting considerable delays. And I was wondering, what do you see as one of the first 1, 2, 3 reasons why projects are delayed, or in the worst case, even failing?
Yeah, a large part of where I have seen projects have stretched longer than they should is primarily comes down to 2 or 3 things, right? From a customer perspective, usually if you don't start with a very clear documentation of what are the tools you use, what do they want, what do you want to retain, what do you want to replace, right? Because people are used to whatever they're doing. They may be doing things in Excel, they may be doing some things manually, they may be doing things in CRM. They may be doing the wrong things in wrong places, right? So if you don't step back and document it, you will perpetuate the problem. You might get a new system, you might get the new CPQ, but you will continue to end up doing wrong things in the wrong place, and that typically leads to frustrations or projects that need a lot of rework. So first, I always say take enough time, kind of step back and say, whenever you do a new CPQ implementation, you have an opportunity to reset. You have an opportunity to step back and kind of ask those questions. Not just get parity, do everything that you're doing well, continue to do that well, and fix things that were not done well, but also enhance, right? Is there something that you could do better? Just because you were doing it one way doesn't mean that's the only way you should do it. So I always now challenge customers to kind of go think about that, right? Practitioners to think about it. So documenting that, I think, helps. If you've not done that I've seen, typically leads to not necessarily failures, but a lot of rework. The second is documentation of what your ideal or desired quote to cash processes are, the most efficient processes. Just kind of write it down and define success criteria. Define what you mean, what are your KPIs. When you want to say, it may be quoting time, right? It may be win rates. It may be things like minimal errors, so that you don't have to come back to the sales desk and fix things, right? So it may be that, hey, always put out quotes that are accurate, compliant, and fulfillable, right? Things like that, being able to just step back and think about KPIs and what you mean, how would you define success, I think always helps in your process. So if you have that, then you can kind of step back and kind of look at it and sort of say which part of the process happens in an ERP, which needs to happen in a CRM, which needs to happen in CPQ, because invariably CPQ is not be all and end all. It has to coexist and integrate with other systems, either back office or front office or other systems of record. And so having that kind of a process always helps. I think those are 2 things that I've seen. But also the third aspect is just being realistic about how many times you expect things to be updated, right? Because CPQ is not just about one and done. It's about change management. It's about can the business keep pace with can the CPQ keep pace with the speed of the business, right? In terms of new ideas, new packages, new promotions, things like that. So again, documenting those things and say, hey, we expect price books to change more often than others. We expect new products or SKUs to appear, or we expect rules to keep changing. Planning for that always helps, because then how you architect and how you set up the CPQ system might change depending on what you want people to be able to do it themselves in sales ops teams, as opposed to coming back to the vendor and say, hey, now we need to do this, so you got to go and implement some new enhancement, or you have to do something in your product. I think those are the three areas where I have seen has the biggest impact on the length and the success of a CPQ implementation.
Excellent. Now, we want to make sure that we cover you complete, right? All the capabilities. We didn't talk about field service management capabilities, and I don't want to make it a big topic, but please tell our listeners also a little bit more what you offer there and why that might be interesting for them.
It's a very nuanced thing, and it's very important. And I'm glad you brought that up, because when we look at field service management, I'm not looking at it as a pure play field service management play. There are a lot of field service management players out there who do just that, and there are very good platforms and capabilities in the market around that. But there are many industries where customers are always not looking at new logos. They have a big book of business and they rely a lot on repeat sales. They are upselling, cross-selling to the same group of customers, and they get a lot of repeat orders. And in many of those cases, the line between a sales rep and a service advisor blurs, right? And a lot of times their service advisors are trusted advisors to the customers, and they're out in the field, they've built relationships with customers, and they actually end up spotting the biggest upsell, cross-sell opportunities and expansion opportunities. And a lot of times they are the ones who actually even generate estimates and quotes for these kinds of opportunities. So it's not a linear thing. It's something that's a loop that just keeps going on, right? So you might have a new customer, you go through the regular process, you quote and contract, and you get them live, but then they become a customer for the long term. And then you have a service relationship with them, and the service department brings new opportunities back to you, right? And so the CPQ is also being used in the field as much by the service team as much as sales. We've got customers where we've got new equipment sales, we've got people in the field service who are delivering it and also coming up with repair quotes, upsell quotes, right? New model upgrades and things like that. And so it is a lot more intricate, and that's why I see it's a loop. Now, going back to the field service, where it becomes interesting is once a quote is done and once a contract is generated, if there is a project and a service task that needs to come out of it, a lot of customers find it very attractive if the CPQ system can automatically transition and generate that for them. Because there's a lot of time spent in redoing that, because especially if they throw it over the wall, the service department is using totally different software or some new process. They have to come back and figure out what exactly was sold, what was promised, how should that be delivered, how should that be set up, and they kind of follow and redo a lot of that stuff that leads to a lot of delays, right? And we completely eliminate all of that with that field service module that we add on, because it can take from the quote, automatically provision the right kind of service tasks that need to happen in the field, and figure out who are the right people and schedule them, and then push that out and have them ready so that they can deliver the task, close it, and generate an invoice. And so collection can happen very quickly. So when I talk about it, it's not in the context of a pure field service, but in the context of a quote-to-service-to-cash.
Excellent. And to be complete now, I want to make sure that all our listeners understand what MobileForce is really 100% focused on, right? So let's talk about the industries, the customer size, and the regions that you mostly serve.
Yeah. Majority of our customers tend to be non-tech. We do have a lot of technology company customers as well. But tech company buyers typically focus on CPQ and things like subscription contract management. So those kinds of features. So we have a fair share of those, and we do very well with them. And there again, our focus is on B2B, which is really focused mid-market, small enterprise, large enterprise. That's kind of mid-market and up. And on the technology side, again, B2B customers or SaaS companies who have either a need for more complex pricing, dynamic pricing, tiered pricing, volume pricing, things like that, or complex products with bundles and packages and things like that. Those are areas where we shine well, where our CPQs value, they appreciate, and ability to do no-code manage, conditional proposals, and things like that. So those are the feature sets that we focus on, and those are the kind of customers we target there. But a majority are actually non-tech, which is primarily manufacturing and industrials, and also service-oriented companies, trade companies. So this again, B2B mostly, not necessarily B2C. There are some B2Cs too that are there, franchisee type businesses. And there are three areas that make us very attractive for them. One is our ability to cover beyond CPQ into service, as I mentioned. Second is our ability to do both web and mobile, because a lot of these companies have a lot of road warriors. They are out in the field and they want to be able to transact anywhere, anytime. So our seamless ability to kind of provide that CRM integration on the go, where they can do quotes and service on the go on a mobile device. That's very handy for them. And the third is also our multiple routes to market coverage. A lot of those companies sell through distributors and resellers. So we provide a very good solution for partners to be able to come into a portal and quote, or a solution where they can quote from an app in a very controlled environment where the information is still coming into their central CRM and ERP. So those are the three areas where which differentiates us very well there. So those specifically those industries are things that we focus on.
Excellent. And I could go on with questions here for another 2 hours at least, right? So, but unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this episode. Hence, the last question: what's a good way for interested listeners to contact you or your team if they want to learn more about MobileForce AI?
Our website is the best way, MobileForce.ai. We'd love to hear from you. Please come in and just contact us there. You will hear from somebody at the speed of light. So look forward to continuing that conversation.
Jagadish, thank you very much for making time for the CPQ podcast today.
It was a fantastic conversation. Great to be here, and thank you so much, Frank.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.